So, turned out nice again. Things were still a bit sticky, but it fired and it ran. Once it was up to temperature, the stickiness went away. And a few days later I had another go. Again it fired, it ran, and then once it was up to temperature, the stickiness subsided and it ran okay. Other than you can tell it's not great fuel, and as the level gets lower on the reserve, the fuel quality is getting worse, as it seems to have settled again. I'm determined that all issues need to be solved on the reserve rather than having a sort of disaster waiting to happen situation where I do need the reserve. So I decided to get on with fixing up the rest of it, as what it needs is some running, but I can't take to the roads due to an MOT that expired in 2005. I set about changing the front brake line. I had a right fight on my hands getting the seized front reservoir open, but I managed it without destroying anything, I think. I found some replacement screws in my piles of junk, never throw anything away, and got it bled up nicely. Then as a treat, I mean purely for the purposes of testing, I did a bit of garden running. Sorry neighbours. I then began removing the back wheel and changing the tyre, which was an ordeal. Again, using enough force to get the job done, but hopefully without destroying anything. I do have form for that kind of thing. I got the tyre off eventually. There was an inner tube in it which stunk, which has to be like 20 years old. The side walls of the 2001 tyre were really hard and crusty. I then thought I'd pop a fresh valve in the wheel and fit the new tyre, only to discover the valve hole was a different size. The ones I had were 11 point something, and the hole in the wheel was 8.3. I thought about widening the hole, but decided to play safe and ordered a couple of valves on eBay. While I waited for them, I set to on the back end, some Lanagard action. I've never worked on a bike with a normal swinging arm. I cleaned up and lubricated these things. The back brake had been sticking, so I cleaned up and lubricated the caliper, and I started to fit the new brake line. This is where things went south. The old brake line has a solid piece on the end that goes on the inside of the frame before going up and over to the other side. The supplied Goodrich hose is just a normal hose, which, if it was on the inside of the frame, doesn't allow clearance for the swing arm. I don't mind about the aesthetics of the situation, but currently the only solution would be to run it on the outside of the frame. Would that get an MOT? I'm not sure. I've emailed Goodrich. The front brake hose was about 10 centimetres too long, but I've managed to get around that with some slightly altered routing up top. It's not fouling anything. The rear is just not going to work. I got an initial fact-finding email from them, but I haven't had a real response as yet. I also emailed my usual MOT place to see what they think, and as yet got no response from them either. I had a look at the chain and got to thinking about the 25-year-old rubber O-rings inside it and discovered I can get a replacement for about £35, so silly not to. Now the new tyre valves turned up, so I managed to get the tyre on. Again, a battle of using enough force, but please don't break, please don't break. I managed that, and then took one of the already fitted wheel weights off and decided that it was balanced well enough for my purposes. I then tried to start it again, but it was back to no fuel, clogged idle jets, I think. The level in the tank is getting low, so I think the real junk is coming through. I think I'm going to have another go at clearing the tank out before cleaning the carbs again. So I've made some steps forward, some steps back, but I will persevere. It's going to be a fun bike when the battle is won, I think. Over and out.